so that it's not too high for some and too low, and also the issue of providing a long-term relief. So the rationalized late fee and the decision to reduce maximum amount of late fee for small taxpayers will come into effect for the future tax periods. So this will provide a long-term relief to smaller taxpayers. I'm flagging all the decisions. We'll get into the details a bit later. Annual return filing has also been simplified. I'll give you the details a bit later. You'll know that the Council has recommended to amend the CGST Act to allow for self-certification of reconciliation statements instead of getting it certified by chartered accountants. You know, this is a decision of 2020 of the GST Council, and that has also become a part of the Finance Act of this year. Then the annual return filing will continue to be optional for financial year 2020-21 for small taxpayers having turnover less than 2 crores, while reconciliation statements for the year 2020-21 will be furnished only by those taxpayers whose turnover is 5 crore or more. Then there was a discussion about the quarterly return filing and quarterly payment, the QRQP. There's a bit of a discussion on it. The modalities of the scheme have also got to be worked out, so the law committee will be looking into it. Almost near the end of the day's discussion was this discussion on the compensation cess. The same formula as is of last year will be adopted this year also. So a rough estimate that the center will have to borrow about 1.58 lakh crores and pass it on to the states on a back-to-back arrangement like we did last year. But more importantly, on the compensation cess-related matters, we are in the last of the 5 years of the 14% compensation, which is protected revenue-based compensation discussion. Even from last year, there's been worry if there will be an opportunity to extend it beyond July 22. So I've assured the members that there will be a special session only to discuss that one agenda of how compensation cess will be collected, how long will it be collected, how much will be collected beyond July 22. So there will be a special session, and I've assured the members that we'll call that as early as possible. So these are broad contours, but of course we can get into the details once the question answers session is started off.
Thank you, ma'am. Number 18.
Ma'am, just wanted to know from you, why was there a lack of consensus on this important issue about COVID-related? Because this entire country, as you are well aware, is already suffering from a second surge. Didn't the GST Council understand the importance of giving relief to the common man? And if this group of ministers is constituted, will it have to go back to a GST Council, or it will be a decision of the GM will be binding on the GST Council?
I'm happy you mentioned will it benefit the common man? Exactly on that was the discussion. Because it's one thing to rush to say, do this, it will benefit the common man. But when you were technical committee, the fitness committee, the fitment committee, the law committee, go into the details, you realize that that could have collateral impact on many others. I'm not talking about the revenue generation aspect, but how many other items will get included in it, as a result of which, how are you going to implement it? And such questions. And will actually these benefits, because they are going to manufacturers or intermediaries who are bringing it from somewhere, the local manufacturer, will actually these benefits eventually be passed over to the end user, the patient, the citizen? On that, there were differing views. And therefore, I suggested that a GOM go into the details and then take a call. I would underline the fact that it is not as if there was one segment which said, oh, on humanitarian consideration, you have to do it. And another segment said, we don't care for the humanitarian segment. No. As a council, we are responsible to see how actually it will reach the end user, which is the common man of the country. So on that, there were substantial points which highlighted this argument as much as that argument. And therefore, we have to go into the details. The GOM will be coming back, and we will probably discuss among ourselves and take a call on how to immediately take a call, final call on it.
And number 22.
Good evening, ma'am. Sapna here from CNBC TV 18. You just clarified on the rate issue, but just wanted to understand very broadly, if possible. A couple of items you've already agreed, the council has already agreed to reduce the rates from 12% to 5%, ma'am. That's one. I suppose the issue remains in terms of drugs, COVID-related drugs, and the COVID vaccine, which are, I think, currently at 5%, ma'am. Kindly correct me if I'm wrong, ma'am. So on this matter, once the GOM gives its recommendations on 8 June, will the council also meet again? And also, why couldn't a quicker decision be taken today, ma'am? Is it really a very complex issue? Because as questions are being raised in terms of the consumer impact, ma'am. That's one, ma'am. Second, you have clarified on compensation that, some numbers which you have worked out is something that you will be again giving to the states on the same arrangement as last year. Is there a finality on that, ma'am? And last but not the least, ma'am, this is a time when the pandemic has hit everybody very badly. Any comments you'd like to make on the state of the economy, ma'am? Your take on that. There's already a talk that you're coming out with a second package also, relief measures. Sorry, just slightly digressing.
Any comments on what?
State of the economy, ma'am. There is a lot of talk that government is already looking at the second relief package, most likely. Your comments on that. Thank you.
Tarun, do you want to explain about the rates and other things? And in any case, the GOM is the one which has to come back now.
I will just take two examples that were discussed in the committee meeting in greater detail. So, for example, the COVID vaccine. So the COVID vaccine is being purchased by the center and the states. And the GST that is coming and that is being paid by the center and the states is also coming back to the center and states. And it was shown that even if we calculate, it is almost the same amount which is coming back to the center and the states of what they are paying. So in a sense, a tinkering a rate will not affect, because the center and the states are actually providing vaccine free of cost to all the people who are coming to the government hospitals, whether in the state or the center. Now, a question arose whether there are private hospitals also who are giving vaccine. So if you give the benefit of this, if you reduce the GST, the benefit will also go to the private hospitals. But will the benefit actually go to the patient, to the person, is a moot question. Because even in Delhi, I'm sure all of you would know that different hospitals are perhaps charging different amounts for vaccine. So whether the benefit will go to the intermediary or whether the benefit will go to the end patient was a question that was raised. And it was said that what is it, this benefit that we are giving for? We want the people, the general people, to be benefited. So this was something that was debated. Number two, a similar simile I'll give you. For example, ventilators, if you take as an example. So ventilators are bought by whom? I and you at our homes don't buy a ventilator. Maybe one or two rich people, if they are setting up an ICU at their home, they would be buying a ventilator. The ventilators are again bought by the hospitals. So if they are bought by the government hospitals, whether they are center or state, the center of the state pays the GST, the center of the state gets back the GST. If the ventilators are purchased by the private hospitals will pay. But if you give a relief there, will that relief translate into the charges that are being charged from the patients or not? So what is it that we are trying to do by doing this? So these were the basic questions that were raised. The Fitment Committee and the law committees had actually gone into it, but the Council in its wisdom thought that the ministers also wanted to go and do a little deeper dive into this before they come to a decision in terms of whether the rate should be X, Y, Z. So this is the two examples that I wanted to explain how the discussion took place.
Number 9.
The compensation. On the compensation, what we have given to the council is that if we take the same methodology and formula that we had adopted the last time, if we adopt the same formula, the gap is coming to about 1,58,000 at a macro level. When we calculate at the state level, there may be a difference of 1,000 or 2,000 crores here or there. Now, this is the gap that is coming. But unlike the last year, when there was a complete lockdown and the economy really suffered, this time the economy is not suffering as much. It is suffering, but it is not suffering as much. So last year, there has been a greater deficit than what the back-to-back borrowing has happened. So case was made out that this year perhaps, even if we are able to collect 1,10,000 crores on an average per month, our deficit would be 1,50,000, while we will do a back-to-back borrowing of 1,58,000, which would mean that we have compensated another 8 or 10,000 to the states for the previous year's shortfall. And the way things were moving, and I think today's council has also given us a feel that they are ready to take decisions which would, after the COVID has passed. If that happens and we are able to collect on an average even 1,15,000 crores per month over the 12-month period, then this deficit actually comes to 1,25,000. And if we borrow 1,58,000, this will compensate for the last year by another 33,000. Having said that, the council has now decided that this presentation was made. So now we will move to my colleagues, like my colleagues last time moved to me, to ask them whether they could borrow this amount and also initiate discussions with RBI. And Department of Expenditure would be writing to the states on what their individual amount is and taking their consent like it happened the last time.
261. Please. 261, please go ahead.
Ma'am, if you permit me, my question is outside GST Council. It is completely up to you to take it, because there is a lot of debate on the utilization of vaccination budget. You sanctioned 35,000 crore rupees, that grant was sanctioned. And as per the April order, the combined order given to SSI and Bharat Biotech, the amount utilized is 2520 crore rupees. That is just 7.2% of the total sanctioned budget. Some people say it should have been front-loaded. So could you please give the data, how much budget has been utilized, which has already been sanctioned, and what is your plan to scale it up?
Well, first of all, even as I announced that 4,500 odd crores being paid to the two vaccine manufacturers, it was towards as an advance payment for the supplies till end of July. So, I think this was also explained that the bulk stock that they had with them was given, and that is what was used from January 16th, so that the vaccination of the frontline warriors was taken care of smoothly. And subsequently, we have now paid up the advance. We are getting the supplies from the two of them. And those are anyway being given to the states only. Center doesn't actually go about vaccination. It is done through the hospitals in the states. So, and now, I think yesterday or day before, when Dr. V.K. Paul from the Niti Aayog has come up with a very elaborate detailing of what is happening in the vaccination. We have allowed Sputnik to come. Sputnik ready to use is also getting imported. And the country has opened itself up for all those, whether it is Japanese or European Union or US approved vaccines or anything which is certified by such authorities to come and manufacture in India and for the world. So we are constantly engaging with a lot of these suppliers and also manufacturers of vaccine, like the way negotiations are being held with Pfizer. So these are ways in which vaccine is being obtained. In the coming months, the supply will also be far more than what it is now.
Number 37.
Naresh, behalf of Win News. Can I raise the question in Tamil, ma'am? தடுப்பூசிகள் வணிக ரீதியான இறக்குமதிக்கு 5%, ஆக்சிஜன் செறிவூட்டிகளுக்கு 12% ஜிஎஸ்டி வரி விதிக்கப்படுகிறது. இதன் மீதான ஜிஎஸ்டி வரியை குறைக்க முடியாது என ஏற்கனவே சொல்லியிருக்கீங்க நீங்கள். அந்த வகையில் பார்க்கும்போது நாடு தழுவிய ஊரடங்கால மக்களும் சரி, மாநில அரசுகளும் சரி, பல்வேறு வகையில் நிதி நெருக்கடியில் சிக்கியிருக்கிறார்கள். அந்த வகையில் தமிழக அரசுக்கு வழங்க வேண்டிய 4,321 கோடி ரூபாய் நிலுவை தொகையை மத்திய அரசு உடனடியாக வழங்கப்பட வேண்டும் என்ற பட்சத்தில் தற்போதைய சூழ்நிலையில் உதவிகரமாக இருக்கும் என்று தமிழக அரசு கேட்டுக்கொண்டிருக்கிறது. இந்த கோரிக்கைக்கு தங்களின் பதில்?
பல விதமான விஷயங்களை உங்களோட ஒரே கேள்வியில் போட்டிருக்கீங்க. இந்த 4,300 சொச்சம் ஏதோ நீங்கள் சொல்கிறது எங்கேருந்து வந்துச்சுன்னு எனக்கு தெரியல. அதோட விவரம் நான் நீங்கள் மாநில அரசு மூலமாக வரக்கூடிய லெட்டரில் வந்துச்சுன்னா அதை பார்த்துட்டு பேசலாம். தடுப்பூசிகள் மத்திய அரசால் வழங்கப்படுறது மாநிலங்களுக்கு தான் போகுது. அது இலவசமாக தான் போகுது. மாநில அரசுக்கு போகிறது, இலவசமாக போகிறது முதல்ல 60 வயசுக்கு மேலே இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கு கொடுக்கப்பட்டு இப்போ 45 வயசுக்கு மேலே இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கும் கொடுக்கப்படுது. இதை தவிர, அதாவது மொத்த உற்பத்தி 100 அப்படின்னு எடுத்துக்கிட்டோம்னா 50 மத்திய அரசு வாங்கிக்கிட்டு தான் செலவில் தான் வாங்கிக்கிட்டு மாநில அரசுகளுக்கு அது இலவசமாக வழங்குறாங்க. 100 இதில் போயிடுச்சுன்னா மீதி 50ல் 25% மாநில அரசுகள் அவங்கவுங்க செலவில் வாங்கிக்கலாம். அதை 18லேருந்து 44 வயசுக்குள்ளே இருக்கிறவங்களுக்கு கொடுத்துக்கலாம். இந்த 25 இதுக்கு போயிடுச்சுன்னா மீதி 25 தனியார் ஹாஸ்பிட்டல்களுக்கு அவங்களுக்கு இந்த 2 கம்பெனிகள் மூலமாக சப்ளை பண்ணிக்கலாம். அவங்க என்ன விலைக்கு அதை போட்டுவாங்களோ தனியார் நிறுவனங்கள் கொடுத்துக்கலாம். இதுதான் அந்த திட்டத்தோட அடிப்படை. 50, 25, 25. இந்த 50 மத்திய அரசு வாங்கிறத இலவசமாக தான் நாங்கள் கொடுக்குறோம். அது அரசு மருத்துவமனை மூலமாக உபயோகிச்சுக்கலாம். அதனால் இப்போவும் அந்த 50% இலவசமாக அந்தந்த மாநிலங்களுக்கு அந்தந்த ஒரு ஃபார்முலேஷன் இருக்குது. அவங்கக்கிட்ட ஒரு அட்டவணைக்கு ஆதாரமாக வச்சுக்கிட்டு கொடுக்குறாங்க எந்தெந்த மாநிலங்களுக்கு எவ்வளோ கொடுக்கணும்னு. அந்த ரீதியாக போயிட்டு தான் இருக்குது, இப்போவும் போயிட்டு தான் இருக்குது. நாங்கள் எந்த விதத்துலையும் எங்களோட இதை குறைக்கலை. நாங்கள் கொடுக்க வேண்டிய 50% குறைக்கலை.
Ma'am, I have got an online question.
அதான் நான் முதலே சொன்னேன், அந்த 4000 சொச்சம் நீங்கள் சொல்கிறது நிலுவைன்னா எந்த கணக்கில்